Welcome back to the Juan Palomino Breakthrough Podcast, Season 2.
Season 2.
My name is Jenna.
Hi, Jenna.
Hi. And I am here with my husband, Juan.
Hi, everybody. We're so excited to be back. And I know you guys probably hear that all the time from, different hosts or whatnot, but we really are.
Yeah.
We took a nice little break.
Yeah.
And got some confirmation of God, wanting us to continue to do what we did season 1. That was like 34 podcasts, recorded podcasts. Episodes. There you go.
Yeah.
Not podcasts, but episodes. And so here we are, season 2. And man, it's going to be a doozy. It's going to be a good one.
Man, a lot of lessons learned.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
God, just being faithful because he is faithful to his promises. He said, never leave us nor forsake us. But anyways, I want to get into it. There's just so many good things. Episode 35. Here we are.
So tell us, Juan, what has God been teaching you through these last few months of hiatus?
Of taking some time off?
Right.
Okay, what we mean by taking time off is busyness.
Right, because we went through holidays, right? And a lot of busy time in the church, right?
Yep.
And we had Christmas, we had New Year, we had Easter.
Spring break.
Yeah.
All that good stuff. So today's episode, what I want to focus on is I want to talk about like dreams. Not the dreams that, well, maybe a dream that God has given you, but I want to talk about how God is a good father, really. And he loves us, his children, and he does want to give us good gifts. And, we've just experienced something amazing. I think in the previous podcast, if you listen to it, we were talking about how, it had been a few years since we actually had gone on a actual vacation. We talked about Costa Rica, back when I turned 40. And I think at the end of season 1, we were talking about, I had just turned 46, right? It was the day after my birthday. And so we kind of sat there after the podcast and we're like, man, we haven't gone on a vacation, just you and I, babe, right? Just you and I, and really just reconnected and enjoyed ourselves. And so we're like, what's going on? Like we've taken little hiatus, right? We have had 2-day, 3-day trips. We've gone to like Louisville, Kentucky. We've gone to Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth area. I mean, we've gone to Arizona. I'm not saying that we have not taken breaks. Don't hear me wrong.
But a lot of those have been business.
And a lot of it has business with pleasure. Yes. So we go, for example, to a trip and it's got to do with some ministry stuff. And then we stay another day or two to enjoy like what's around there. For example, Louisville, we went to the Ark afterwards, after a conference that we went to. So anyways, this is how it transpired. Let me just kind of get your mind wrapped around this if you're listening. To everyone that's listening, I love golf. And I'm an avid golfer. I'm not good at it. My handicap's like 11, 12. I shoot in the 80s.
Which I don't know what any of that means, but okay.
Well, the point is that I go out to have fun, enjoy, being out in nature and having great conversations with guys and, taking my mind off of work, but still do ministry. Anyways, the point is that in December, January, God asked me to get rid of my golf clubs. Remember that?
Yes.
And I was like, what? And I was like, Lord, what do you mean? And he was like, yeah, this is a distraction right now. And I was like, no way. Like anything else, God, anything else. There's a big garage, right? We have stuff. Like, what do I sell? What do you want me to get rid of? Like, and he kept on just nudging me, telling me that golf. And I was like, no. I was like, no way. And so long story short, I immediately was like, okay, I need to go get rid of these golf clubs then. It's going to hurt. Right? This is something that I enjoy, something that I'm passionate about, something that it's a hobby, that it's a escape. And so I went reluctantly. I'm going to use that word reluctantly. It was raining that day. I had all the excuses in the world, but I was like, I need to be obedient. And so I went, and I remember telling God, I go, but there's a specific number that I want for them. If it's truly you, God, like there's a number that I want for them. And I know that it's really you that's telling me to get rid of my golf clubs. So I went again, trying to be obedient, but also a little bit reluctant because, I love doing golf, going golf. And I went, and the guy is looking at me, and long story short, he gives me the number, and it's the exact number I asked for in the car when I was driving there to get rid of my golf clubs. And so I was like, no. So I gave my golf clubs up. So that's that was January. I'm sorry. That was January. So I cried a little. I came home, Jenna gives me this embrace and says, I know how hard that was. And okay, like, great job being obedient. And, we're going to trust God. And I know in the past how obedience, right? God just loves when, as children of His, we're obedient. When He tells us to do something, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be outside of our comfort. It's going to be something that you're passionate or that you're good at or whatever it is. I don't know. Every single one of you listening right now, you know what that thing has been that maybe God has been nudging at you and telling you, are you willing to give this up for me? Are you willing to take action on this thing and not procrastinate, not put off anymore? And so I've learned over the years that when God asks me or tells me to do something, I need to not put it off. I need to go and just do it. So we did it. I did it. And then, Jenna, what happened to you? What did God ask you to do? I know this is a hard one.
Man, so I've been getting my eyelashes done, my eyelash extensions for 6 or 7 years, right? And it's like, what, $200 a month? And it's what I was calling my self-care. And I had been feeling the same thing, the nudge, for a long time to stop getting them done. And I had been putting off like, no. And finally, I just made the decision, the same thing, to stop getting them done. And it was so hard, especially because it's, I guess vanity, right? Where it's like, it's something on my face and it's something that people see and it's my appearance. And yeah, so I made the decision to finally stop getting them done.
Yeah.
And in reality, I mean, there was only one person that noticed that even said, I mean, I don't know, maybe there was more people that noticed that I stopped getting them done, but there was only one person that like even said something like, oh, hey, did you stop getting your lashes done? But yeah, for me, it was a huge deal.
Oh, yeah.
And even still, every day I'm like, oh, I wish, but yeah, I stopped getting my lashes done, and
yeah.
It was obedience for sure.
Now, when we mean obedience, let me give you a little bit more context. So, as you guys obviously are aware, right? Everything's gone up.
Yep.
Groceries has increased, from 2001 to today. I think groceries, don't quote me on this, but I think a financial expert say that groceries have increased from 2001 to 2026, like 400%. Over 400%, the cost of buying groceries.
Well, interestingly, even enough, is that our rent increased by exactly $200, which is
so. But this is before that. So
yeah.
Everything has gone up,
yeah.
right? The cost of living, gas, rent, all of this stuff has increased, and there's a lag with pay.
Right.
Now, pay has gone up over the last 25, 26 years, 73%. Okay. So everything's gone up 200+%, 400%, but pay has gone up only 73%. And so we're at a crossroads, and we're asking God, obviously God increase us, God increase, our income. Jenna's been applying, looking for, different opportunities, in church, outside of church, like you name it. Creating a small business, being entrepreneurs, we're not scared. We're not scared to do things. We have a good work ethic, I believe. We're not afraid to get our hands dirty, if you will, get stuff done in order to meet the needs that we have. And then God, instead of looking outward in His omnipotence and omniscience and omnipresence, says, look inside. And we're like, what? So there's certain things that, yes, bring comfort to us. But again, it was a test for us to be like, okay, here are some things that, yes, you do enjoy. And don't get me wrong, he wants us to enjoy good things. Again, Jesus said, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I came to give you life to the full. But I don't think it was about that. What it was is, are we willing to sacrifice? Mm-hmm. And this walk with Jesus, there's going to be temptation. There's going to be, what are the things that are distracting us from focusing back on him? Here's the question I ask, that God asked me. He's like, do you want to bless others? You want to be a blessing? You're blessed to be a blessing. I'm like, yes. And when you can't do that, like, that's burdensome on you. Mm-hmm. Like, you want to give more to the church, don't you? I'm like, yes, I do. We tithe, which is 1/10 of our income, and that's pre-tax, and that's where God has us, and we've been doing that, and I'm going, God, I want to give more, and he's like, well, this thing over here, which is golf for me and for you, eyelashes, is somewhere where you can make room for that. And I was like, no, there's got to be a place where I can increase my income. We're always thinking external, but God was challenging me personally, internally, to see if I was willing to make room for that. And so we did. Mm-hmm. We did. And here we are on the other side out of obedience. And long story short, we're having a conversation in our life group, which is a small group of people that we meet outside of church, right? We meet Sunday as a community. We all come together and congregate. That's what we get together, congregation or church. But the church is not the building, it's us. It's the people. And so we meet on Sunday evening because that works out better for all of our peeps, because the schedule's busy during the week as well. We have other things that we do ministerially. And so we gather with our life group, the people that we do life with. And this is a group of 8 to 10 people besides us. And we began to just have a casual conversation about God. And I think it was that message. It was a message that, our pastor preached on generosity, mm-hmm. and, giving and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And it led to a conversation about, like, people taking trips or doing things or God being generous. And then the conversation about, I think our anniversary had just passed. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, I said, you know what? We just haven't taken a trip in a while. It's not because of lack of time. It's just financially. At the same time, everyone, listen to me. On my phone, literally on my screen, my home screen, I had a picture of a golf course. This is weird. I'm just going to say it out loud because you need to hear this. I had a picture of a golf course. It's called the Grand Wailea, and it's in Maui in Hawaii. And it's a bucket list golf course that I thought one day, God, I would love to play there. It's got it's this picture skew of, obviously you're on an island and there's, this scenic, it's just beautiful, right? There's ocean and green grass and all this stuff. And I've had that for months. I don't know how long. I think it's probably 6 months or a year. I've had this picture, and every time I grab my phone, I see it. And we're having a conversation during life group about, hey, we want to take a trip one day. Our anniversary just happened, and we haven't been able to go because of financial resources. And remember the story that we just mentioned to you about giving up stuff and making room. And
we told our life group all of these things of, like, Juan getting rid of his golf clubs and me getting rid of my lashes.
My lashes, yeah. Huh. Okay. And then, okay, we prayed, they heard, right? And everyone shared their stories of God, how he's shown up and how God is leading them to obedience. Like, what areas are they being stretched? We're talking about financially and all this stuff. And we had just gone through the book of Acts 2, 42, 47, and it talks about who the church is and how they gathered together and, how the apostles would teach and, they would listen to the apostles' teaching and, people, they broke bread together, they sold their possessions, their property, and they distributed, the proceeds to anyone that was in need. And because they did that, they devoted themselves meeting together in the temple and all that stuff. And they praised God and enjoyed the favor of all the people. And because they did that, every day, the Bible says, I think it's in verse 47, every day the Lord added to their number who was being saved. So we pray, we're done with our life group, and then what happens?
One of the ladies asked, hey, if you guys were able to get away for 5 days, would you be able to have someone watch the kids for you? And we're like, yeah, we'd be able to make that happen. Like, no problem. Like, we will find a way.
Absolutely.
And she said that they will look into something and get back to us. And then a couple of days later, she texted me and said that their in-laws have a condo in Hawaii.
In Maui.
And they wanted to offer us 5 days in Maui for free of cost.
Free. Totally free.
Yeah. And they wanted to take care of the flights as well.
Uh-huh.
And so it was basically a free trip to Hawaii, to Maui.
To Maui.
And then...
Incredible.
So then we get there.
Hold on, back up. So Jenna tells me this, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I said, are you serious? Like, yeah, they're like completely. They'll cover our flight. We'll cover like everything. 5 days in Maui. And I was like, no way. I was like, this is amazing. And so we began to praise God and thank him for his generosity, all this stuff. We began to plan, right? All that. And then.
So then I'm like, okay, cool. And, we go and like rent a car. We make the plans. Cool. And I'm like looking, and I'm like trying to look at like the condo from like where, I have like really no idea. And they're like trying to explain it to us. And I'm like, cool, it's a condo. And I'm like more of a resort type of gal. And I'm like, cool, condo, playing it down. And so we get there and we open the door to this place, and it's friggin' amazing.
It's beachfront.
It's a beachfront condo and like completely remodeled and like has every amenity that you could think of.
Yep. It was
for
gorgeous.
Free.
Gorgeous.
For free.
But let me back up.
Yeah.
Weeks before, Jenna's doing all of the research, looking at stuff, seeing what's around, and the golf course that I've had on my phone for about a year of bucket list of wanting to go and play golf is right there in Maui.
Yeah.
And she goes, it's like 12-minute drive to the Grand Wailea. And I was like, no
because you're like, well, I want to go golfing. I'm like, well, I already booked it. And he was like, well, I want to go to the Grand Wailea. And I was like, well, I already booked that one.
Right. No, it was more surprising than that. But it was just like incredible where I was like, I said, the Grand Wailea? Like the Grand Wailea? I go, look, the picture on my phone. And she was like, yes. There's the gold course, the emerald course.
But the way that it kind of lined up was because we were getting our tax refund. And so we had the funds to book it. And so the way that God lined it up that way.
Correct.
Just worked out.
He lined up everything is what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
But I believe, again, let's back up how we started. It started with our obedience.
Yeah.
With what were we willing to give up? What were we willing to do to put our house in order and sacrifice in order to give, in order to be generous ourselves? And so don't miss this. Like God, months before in January anyway, we took the trip in April.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just took the trip literally a month ago. And we went April 22nd through the 27th or something like that. But I was just like, Lord, like, wow, you really want to bless us. You really want to take care of us. You know our goals, you know our dreams, our aspirations. You're a good father. And here you are, kind of checking our hearts to see like where are you guys? And I'm not saying it always works out that way, but we just wanted to share that with you in this episode as we kick off, asking you, like, again, where have you maybe been disobedient? And there's that thing that you have to do and God is asking you, and you may call it intuition, but it's the Holy Spirit. It's himself telling you, asking you, do this.
But not only that, the importance of being in community and the the transparency of being in that community, right? Like, and us being transparent with our community and telling them where we're at and like what we're doing with our lives. Because if we weren't transparent with our community and telling them like this is where we're at and this is what we're doing, then they and us not opening up, they would have never known and they would have never been able to offer that opportunity.
Yes. So that brings the question of asking you, who our listeners, where are you not permitting God to bless you? Because you're being disobedient and not being in community,
be vulnerable,
not being honest, open, and transparent with what you're struggling with. You see, every single one of us go through struggles. We're all dealing with stuff. But if you don't have community around you, besides, and I'm not talking about just going to church on Sunday. That's a good thing. That is, we're called to again meet together, to not forsake it, as the book of Hebrews talks about, but deeper, right? Where you can do life, share life, get prayer. And I'm not saying go there intentionally to see what you can receive, but sometimes you go through a season where you can. And then there's other seasons where you're able to give. And that's the whole point of Acts 2:42-47. It's as the believers were together. And here's the crazy part. They all had everything in common. So here's this couple saying, oh, my brother and sister are missing this. We can bless them and they can have this in common with us, that we have a place to go, get some respite, get some rest, and they can reconnect as a couple, and they blessed us with it. Isn't that cool? All right. So they were generous because they've received from God this beautiful blessing of this condo, which they own, and they Airbnb, but they're like, hey, like we can use this to bless others as well. And I mean, I know God sees all of that. Can you imagine how God is going to bless them now, Jenna? Right? That condo, that place. By the way, we prayed all over that condo to bless it as well. It was so neat to be there and go, Lord, thank you for your generosity. And thank you for the people around us that live like you've taught us. That it's not about hoarding, right? Because hoarding things and keeping things to yourself is out of fear. It's out of, I'm not going to have enough, or I'm going to run out. Hello, God is the God of abundance. God is the God that, owns, all the cattle on 1,000 hills. It's his, all of it is his. But can we align ourselves to him, whether we're in need or when we have, to be generous and say, I can meet a need. And as our pastor says, through the generosity sermon series, he said, can you be a funnel instead of a bucket? Right? Does that make sense? Right? A funnel, it gets poured on top and releases in the bottom. But God sees that and says, oh, great, you can be a funnel, so I'll give you more because you're being a good steward with it. And it's not about just you hoarding it and keeping it to yourself. Right? Jesus talks about a story about a guy that, has so much, his barns are filled to the brim. And what does he do?
Builds a new
barn. He tears those down and then, builds bigger barns. And he's like, this guy's a fool. Like, all of this is going to rot. It's going to waste. The rats and vermin are going to come and it's going to fade and, tear up. And
because then you die, and who does it go to?
Yeah, it goes to taxes. It goes to the government. It goes to other people that are going to be wasteful. So the point of all of this, as we kick off, season 2, episode 35, is
wait,
again,
would it be season 2, episode 1?
Oh, it is. I'm sorry. You're right. I apologize. Season 2, episode 1. I'm kind of still counting. Where have you been missing God's generosity in your life because of disobedience? Because of disobedience. I want to encourage you, Jenna and I, both of us want to encourage you as you walk along with us this next season. Season 2 is to be mindful, to ask at God and say, God, where am I missing it? Where am I missing you through disobedience? Is it something you've been asking me to do that I've been putting off? Is it going to church, finding a community where I can also serve and use my gifts and talents? right? Maybe you have an ear for music. Maybe you have a talent for social media, and there's a church that needs it to reach people through those outlets. Maybe it's, hey, you just like smiling and saying hi to people, and you're a good communicator, or a good connector, I should say, networker. Maybe it's in the guest services and connecting people. Maybe it is communicating, right? Maybe not on stage, but, using that in a different way or an outlet by leading a small group, leading other people to Jesus. Like, what is it where you're saying, I just go to consume and get from God, and I've become a bucket, versus I come to receive, but also give away and be a funnel.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm generous and God can trust me with a little, then he's going to say, great, I can trust you with much more. And you can give away, and reciprocate, right? So I told Jenna, I'm looking forward to, God blessing us. One day I know he will. He's going to bless us, abundantly, even more so, and we'll continue to give, because we've been living this principle out now for, you'd say, what, 15 years that we've been following Jesus,
Yep.
Right? Well, we've been tithing, being generous, and giving to others, to the church, right? To the church and whoever needs it.
Well,
and it's been reciprocated.
I think that it's not even just at this point now financially, but with the wisdom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, we meet with people on a regular basis. We talk about our story. We talk about what God has done, testimonials, of God, how God has taken us from, where we were stuck in our relationship individually with God, and also together, and also romantically, right? In our marriage, and how we are discipling our kids and raising them completely different, to the way that we were raised, with the tools that our parents
really
had.
cool is, as I was leaving the house right now, because, it's Memorial Day weekend, I told Ava, because she was home from school, I told Ava that I was leaving, and she was like, where are you going, to the gym? And I said, no, I'm leaving to go record the podcast. And she was so excited for us.
Aww.
It's so cool.
They just love that we do ministry. And the cool thing about it is, since they see us, do it, they want to do it as well.
Yeah.
They themselves are, kind of going like, I want to do that. I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to be a part of it, so it's pretty neat. So anyways, with that said, do you have anything else, honey, with that?
No, I
As
look
we kick
forward
off?
to, I'm ready to record the next episode, to be honest.
Let's go. All right. Well, hey, maybe we're going to launch another one back to back for you guys. Hey, we just want to thank you, no matter where you're listening to. I want to ask you to, share the podcast. If this is blessing you, invite people or forward it to them and say, hey, listen to the, Juan Palomino Breakthrough Podcast. Again, if anything we're sharing here is blessing you and being a light to you, I just want to encourage you, that you're not going through what you're going through alone. We just want to continue to share our story, continue to share with you what God is doing in our lives, and be honest and transparent and open with you all. And just know that we're praying for you. And I know you guys are praying for us. And hey, lastly, just want to say thank you to those who gave everything so that we could have everything. Thank you. Thank you very much. You'll never be forgotten on this Memorial Day, the land of the free because of the brave, and just really remembering with gratitude the sacrifice of all who served our country and paid the ultimate sacrifice, with their lives, because number one, they love our country, and, they believe in what we stand for. So just know that if you have a family member as part of any branch of the military, those folks, your family is gone, but they're never forgotten. And we're grateful for their bravery and their hearts for the freedom that we get to enjoy. So thank you all so much for listening to us. And we look forward to episode 2 of season 2.
You too.
All right, guys. Take care of yourselves. God bless. We'll see you next time.